Have you ever wondered what happens to those plants showcased in YouTube videos that seem to just disappear? Did they thrive as promised, or did the suggested solutions fail long after the camera stopped rolling? Today, we're revisiting some of those forgotten plants and uncovering the truth behind their progress. Get ready for some unexpected revelations and a few harsh realities. And as a bonus, I've got an update on my ongoing experiment with tree fern fiber only moss poles. Will they prove to be the ultimate support for climbing plants or a complete failure? Keep watching to find out. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into the wonderful world of my plants. Let's kick things off with this Peperomia Shumi Red. This plant is just absolutely spectacular. The color is just a vision. You'd be hard pressed to walk past this plant if you saw it in a plant shop. Now, I transitioned this plant from soil to leca a number of months, years ago now. And at that time, I transitioned a lot of plants from soil into leca, a lot of peperomias, and this was one of them. This is her now. She's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. That's her reservoir over there. Look at those leaves. They are absolutely divine. Absolutely divine. It is doing so well. I'll tell you a little secret about this plant. It's actually not living in leca clay balls anymore. I actually moved this plant from the leca clay balls into a mineral-based substrate. So something a little bit like pon. And I'm going to tell you why. This plant, it was doing okay in leca, but it just wasn't thriving. And I suspected that the leca was just not providing the kind of moisture that those little fine roots needed. And so I decided that I was going to put this in pon, because pon actually stays a little bit wetter. And I say pon, but really, when I say pon, I mean a mineral-based substrate, because I very much doubt that it's just pon in here. There's a few other things in there. And because I get my mineral-based substrate from quite a few places, and it's not just pon. And since I've done that, this is the result. This plant is really thriving. It's loving it. It's not living in a grow tent. It just lives out in my home. So I think that change of substrate from leca to a mineral-based substrate was a really, really useful thing to do. So if you've got a peperomia that's giving you trouble, you might want to think about doing that, because my Shumi Red is just looking Shumalicious. I absolutely love her. That is my Peperomia Shumi Red. Next up is my green flame fern. Look at this gorgeous mama. How beautiful is that plant? It looks absolutely amazing, and it is living in leca clay balls. You can see the leca clay balls over there, and that is her. That's a 14 centimeter pot, and you can see some of those roots there. I tell you, this plant is loving leca so much. Look at this. Look at this. This frond has actually come out through my little ventilation hole over there. So funny. But this was one of the very first ferns that I actually transitioned from soil to leca a few years ago now. I can't quite remember exactly when. And I moved this one at the same time as I moved a blue star fern, actually. And it's done really, really well. It would have been bigger. I think it would have gone a lot bigger, but I've moved house since I last transitioned it from soil to leca. It's had all sorts of varying exposure to light. So the light has not been consistent, but I've now got it in a place where I've got the light consistent. The plant is looking good, and I think it's really, really going to grow now, because you can see, I mean, those leaves are just divine. That plant is just really, really digging the leca clay balls. I mean, what can I tell you? This is definitely a success story for me. It is still living in leca, and that is exactly where it's going to stay. Yeah, that is my green flame fern, loving the leca life. Since I'm talking ferns, I might as well pull out my blue star fern. And that is my blue star fern. Look at how beautiful, absolutely beautiful this plant is. And these are leca clay balls. It is living in leca clay balls. Look at that. That fern is really, really happy. And you can see that it's all the fronds are facing that way. So I have not rotated this plant as much as I should have. And so it's all been going that way. But, I mean, this plant is just loving leca. It's really, really doing well. It was in a different pot before, and I've moved it to a self-watering planter. So I've got a wick. It's in a wick setup. So that's my wick there going into my reservoir, which is there. And so that is nice and moist, and that keeps my leca moist. And so far, I think this plant is really loving it, because you can see how absolutely healthy it looks. It just looks, it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I can just imagine 5 years from now what this plant is going to look like. It's just going to be absolutely amazing. It will be such a fantastic centerpiece in my home. And I like to call a lot of my plants centerpieces. I don't know where I'm going to put all these plants that I call centerpieces. Here's an idea. Maybe I need a bigger house. Bigger house. I like the bigger house thing. But that is my blue star fern. I transitioned this plant from soil to leca at the same time as I did my green flame. And you can see both of them are doing really, really well. So that soil to leca experiment worked out really, really well. And that was a really long time ago. And every time I show you one of these plants, I will put a link in the description below to that specific video. So if you want to see how I did that and how the plants were when I started, just look in the description below. If you're watching on the television, I'm not quite sure how that works. I think you might need to actually go on your computer to see those links, but I'll put all those links below. But yeah, look, how mesmerizing is that? I love how it's got that tinge of blue. It's not, well, I mean, obviously, duh, it's called a blue star fern. But yeah, it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Something a little bit different. This is my African violet. Look at this plant. How gorgeous is that plant? It's just beautiful. It is so beautiful. And this plant is living in leca clay balls. Yep, it is the leca for this plant. You can see those are leca clay balls. And ooh, look at those roots. Look at those roots. And I don't know how many heads this violet actually has. It is just so full and so packed in there. But I'll tell you, this is the plant that I decapitate? I decapitated this one. It had a long neck. It was literally bent over like that. And I chopped it up, got rid of all the roots, and I put it in this leca, and look at it now. This plant looks so much better than it did before I actually decapitated it. Man, man, oh man. And people say you can't grow African violets in leca clay balls. I mean, really? My plant disagrees with that statement 100%. People say you can't put water on the leaves of African violets. My plant disagrees with that statement 100%. I'm not saying other people don't have different kinds of experiences. I'm simply saying that with my plant, I'm not following any of those, this is what you shouldn't do with African violet rules. This is where it is. It's so, so beautiful. And I think this one has got little white flowers, if I remember correctly. It's got little white flowers, and when it does flower, I will be the first to show it to you. But man, man, oh man. This is my African violet, which at this point is a fabulous success story. This is a plant I get asked about a lot, because I made a lot of noise about how I had great success transitioning it from soil to leca, which back then I did. And of course, the whole point of this video is to show you what the plants look like months after the camera stops rolling, like I said in my intro. This is my maidenhair fern. Isn't she beautiful? I love how she looks, but this is what she looked like when I got her and she was still living in soil, okay? I transitioned her to leca and things were looking good. But I gotta tell you, things did not keep looking good. I just could not keep that plant happy in the leca clay balls. I know a lot of people do. I don't know how people do it, but I'm guessing the conditions in my home are just not conducive. I don't know, but I couldn't. So what I did was I removed the leca and I put it in my mineral-based substrate. So something similar to pon. So you can see it's really, really dense in there. Really, really dense. Lots of roots going, and it's got its little reservoir over there. But look at it. This plant is really happy. There's quite a fair bit of new growth that you can see coming through there. So I'm really hoping that transitioning it to my mineral-based substrate is the solution for this plant. I mean, the fact that the plant is still alive for me is a win. The fact that it did not do very well in leca clay bowls does not mean that it can't grow in leca clay bowls. Lots of people grow it successfully. It just means that I couldn't get it to work in my environment. So if you're having trouble with a plant like this one, a plant like, really, really delicate leaves like the peperomia that I showed you earlier, maybe switching your plant from leca clay bowls to a mineral-based substrate like pon or just pumice, zeolite mixture, or whatever DIY pon you might want to make might be the way to go. Because, yeah, I am quite loving the way my maidenhair fern looks now. And yeah, I'm not seeing this as a failure. I'm seeing this as a success. This is a blast from the past. This is my money tree. Oh, my leca's falling. It keeps falling. This is my money tree. Look at my money tree. It is so good. It's still living in its tiny mini Deltini lechuza pot. I transitioned this plant from soil to leca, who knows how many months, years ago. But here she is. She's doing really well. She's growing. She's thriving. I am loving the leaves on that plant. This is a plant that has done really well in the leca clay bowls. I'll show you what the root system looks like. So she's living in the leca clay bowls in a in a wick setup. In the wick setup with this mini Deltini. You can see that's the wick over there, but it doesn't really need the wick anymore because the roots there have come through. I'm just pulling off the ones that are looking a bit, that are feeling a bit like coming off. Doesn't matter, that it just doesn't matter at all. There we go. That is my plant. Those roots are nice, good. Yeah, money tree living in leca clay bowls. Yeah, no, this plant has not skipped a beat. Looking good. That is a success story. This is another blast from the past. This is my philodendron golden tooth tiger plant. Look at this gorgeous beauty. Look at that. The colors on this plant are just to die for. Absolutely amazing. I did an experiment with this plant where I have 2 plants living in here. So I got 2 plants, and one I took the roots off, another one I kept the roots on, and I wanted to see how the plants were going to get on with the transition from soil to leca. Both plants did really, really well, and when that experiment was over, I potted them in the one pot. But one thing I find really amazing with plants is that usually when you've got 2 plants in a pot, one of the plants is really going to take off and the other one is just going to be a little scraggly. So you can see here that this plant is the one that's really taken off, and this plant has just remained, as just a small plant. But yeah, that's how that looks, and I'll just show you. That's the leca in there, and that's the reservoir. So this plant has got really dark roots, so it's hard for you to see them. But it's really, really happy. This has been a great success in leca clay bowls. Philodendrons just love leca, honestly. They do so well. And again, a lot of my plants just have not reached their true potential because I wasn't giving them enough light. So I've completely changed my setup now, and my plants are receiving the most light that I can give them. And you can see the difference. Look at that. That leaf is just absolutely amazing. Now I'm thinking, look at this plant. It just keeps wobbling from side to side. This plant is probably crying out for some support. I need to do something and support this plant. And probably what I'm going to do is I am not going to put it on a moss pole. I am going to get a different kind of support for this plant. So maybe I might just get a trellis or something. I don't know. I'll see. I don't know how I'll see how I feel. I don't know. But I'm probably also going to take out this other second plant. So I've only got one plant living in this pot because this other little plant is really doing nothing at this point. So I might as well just take that out and maybe just give it away or something, or put it in its own pot and maybe it's going to grow better. But this is a complete success. My philodendron golden tooth tiger, which I showed you probably 2 years ago or something like that. And it is still in good form. Great success, as Borat would say. While we're talking about philodendrons, I've got another one here. This is my gorgeous little philodendron ring of fire. And I got this philodendron from my good friend Pete of Pete versus Plants. I did a video showing you some of the plants that Pete sent me. He just, woke up one morning and decided to send me a whole bunch of pretty rare, amazing plants, which was gorgeous. And this was one of them. And it was teeny tiny small when I got it. I put it in Lekker Clayables and here we are today. She's still living in a little like 7.5 centimeter pot or something like that. It's really, really small. But you can see how she's just, look at this leaf. How gorgeous is that leaf, right? There's a new leaf coming through there. You can see that new leaf coming through. It's doing really, really well. So this has been an absolute success. So if you saw that video and you wondered what the heck ever happened to those plants, this is one of them, and that is my philodendron ring of fire, which is going to look absolutely fantastic when I put it right next to my philodendron golden tooth tiger. By stepping away from philodendrons for a minute, let us look at a begonia. Look at that. This is my begonia Maurice May. Oh, look at the leaves on that plant. Look at the colors. It is just fabulous. This is a cane begonia, and as you can see, it's caning away and just getting away from me at this point. I've got these, literally 2 acrylic sticks that I've put, back to back, and I'm just holding that in place with a little butterfly clips. That is not sustainable. I need to do something about this plant. And it's actually still living in a tiny 10 centimeter pot. And there's just not enough support on there. When I got this plant, it came to me from, I think I got it from Verdant Dwellings here in Melbourne. And it was damaged in the post. It really was. It was really terrible. I was a little bit upset. I received my package today and this is what my begonia looked like. So that's the main plant there, and that's where it broke off. These are the 2 pieces. And as you can see, they do look pretty calloused over, so I definitely didn't do that in the unboxing. There we go. But these things happened. I propagated it, and here we are today. That plant is doing really, really well. How gorgeous is that? Now, I need to do something about this plant. What do you think I should do? Let me know in the comments below what you think I should do. I'm really feeling like I want to cut it, propagate. So at the moment, there's how many? I think there's like 3. Yeah, so I've got this one here. Then I've got this one. And then there's this one, this stem here. And then there's another stem that's coming off this stem. And there's actually a teeny little leaf that's come through there at the bottom. It's giving me sleepless nights. I don't know what to do about this plant. I need to do something. If you've got some ideas, please let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Now I need to see if I can put this back. There we go. There you go. That is my begonia Maurice May, which is loving the Lekker life, and I'm happy to report that this was a great success. Okay, enough successes. Let's talk about some failures, shall we? This is an Alocasia green velvet. That's what that is, because I see this big green thing here. It must be my green velvet. My green velvet used to be beautiful. It was absolutely glorious. You can see here, it was such a magnificent looking plant. And then it did what Alocasias do, and then I was reduced to pretty much nothing. I put it back in this Lekker, and I now have, it's in a wick setup, and I've got a wick there. That's the reservoir there, and look, I'm happy to report I think it's coming back. You can see these are newly germinated, and then this big shoot here, that's a new one coming out. There's another little tiny one over there. So yeah, I think, fingers crossed, I think my alocasia green velvet is coming back. But I'm not holding my breath for this one. Honestly, I'm not. But a failure and a success at the same time. Can we call it a draw? I think we're going to call this a draw and see how we get on. I'll keep you posted. How beautiful is that? This is my Caladium Pink Symphony. Oh gosh, I'm not quite sure when I got this plant. I think I got this plant from Nursery to You in Queensland. And when this plant came to me, I remember this plant very well. It was damaged as well. A few leaves were damaged and I was a bit unhappy. And yeah, but it's a caladium, okay? So, you can't complain too much. They go dormant and all the rest of this kind of thing. But it came back and gave me that. And it gave me that. That is just really, really beautiful. And as you can see, there's quite a number of, stems coming out of there. So the plant is doing well. It's in a 10 centimeter pot. You can see all those lovely, gorgeous roots. I don't know. I think this is going really, really well. All I need to do is keep it warm. If not, it might go dormant on me. I don't know, because caladiums do. I just keep the minimal amount of nutrient solution so it's not going dry. And yeah, it comes back. But look at this. This is a new leaf that's unfurling. There's another new leaf right there coming through from the bottom. So I think it's safe to say my Caladium Pink Symphony is alive and well. I might not show it to you a lot, but it's still here. And of course, the point of this video is really just to show you that, look, at the end of the day, it's easy for me to actually come up on day one, make a video when the plant is still looking great, and just, go away and there's no follow-up, because it's hard to sit down and do follow-ups of all plants. But, sometimes things do work out, and those methods, they do work, and the plants are actually there. They do exist and they're alive. Some of them. How about that? How about that? Of course, living in Leca clay balls. That is it over there. Beautiful, beautiful. Now this is an Anthurium crystallinum crossed with a forgetii. This is what is called a Cape Oasis. Look at it. It's looking really, really good. I'm really pleased with the outcome of this. This is one of the plants that I got from my friend Sunny of Tinker Garden. I did a video a few months ago where I showed you all the Anthuriums that Sunny gave me for free, I might add, and I transitioned them from soil or whatever it was they were living in into Leca, and I love this one. A lot of them, most of them are still alive. They're doing okay, but I just wanted to show you this one and just, to let you know that I do have some Anthuriums. I know I don't show my Anthuriums a lot because, they're all right, but, yeah. I'm still trying to get into them, really. I'd much rather have a Hoya than an Anthurium, to be honest. But yeah, this is the Anthurium that I got from Sunny, and it is a loving the Leca life. Well, I'm pretty sure you know that we were not going to get through this video without me throwing in a few Hoyas, right? So this is my first one. This is my Hoya latifolia albumarginata, or whatever the heck it is called these days. And to be honest, I don't really care because I don't have time to keep up with Hoya names. But if you do, please let us know in the comments below. Now, I am really loving, absolutely digging this plant. Look at that. Look at that leaf. That is growing so well. When I got this plant, it was teeny tiny. It is now living in a 14 centimeter pot. That is its reservoir over there. It's looking beautiful. Now, the main reason I wanted to show you this plant today is because it is about to flower for me. This is the first time this plant has done this, and I am beyond excited. And just because I saw this plant, got a spot in this video. This, for me, is a success story. And oh gosh, look at this. Look at this new leaf. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It is that tinge of pink. Leca successes with Hoyas are just the best. Let's throw in a moss pole, shall we? Well, this is not quite a moss pole. This is one of my tree fern fiber poles. I think this is the very first plant I ever put on a tree fern fiber pole. This pole is made completely of tree fern fiber, and this is my philodendron white princess, and I love this plant. I love how this leaf here has got that little tinge of pink. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This plant is doing really, really well. This plant actually is one of the plants I featured, I think, in the video where I talk about plants that I can't keep alive or plants that I can't keep happy or something. I don't know what I called it. But, you know, I mean, I've had this plant for a while and this is pretty much where we're at, right? And that's because it started giving me very, very small leaves after I put it on the moss pole and it was there for a while. So I know when you put a plant up on a moss pole, especially when it lives in leca clay balls, not necessarily in soil, but leca clay balls, because you're doing that transition as well. The first initial leaves, the first few leaves tend to be a little bit smaller, which is okay, but they just kept being small and small and small. And of course, because I wasn't giving the plant as the kind of light that it needed. So I ended up chopping it, right? So you can see over here, I chopped the plant. Well, if you can't see it over here, I'll show it to you some other way. I chopped the plant. I chopped it because I just wanted it to start giving me proper leaves. And the beauty about chopping it, what the plant has done is it gave me a new shoot over here. So I've got a whole new shoot on this side and I've got a whole other shoot on that side. So now I've got more leaves on my plant and the leaves are starting to size up rather nicely, if I do say so myself. So I just got to be a little bit patient with this plant. It will give me what I'm looking for because I've given it more light now. So I think it's going to be happy. But let's talk about the tree fern fiber pole. The tree fern fiber pole is beautiful. You can see the roots at the back. You know, you can see that the roots have really anchored into my pole and you can see it's really, really attached there at the, there. I can't pull that out. It's going really well. And it is a dream. It is an absolute dream to water this moss pole. When you put your nutrient solution in, it just goes straight through. No problems with hydrophobic stuff like, you know, sphagnum moss does. Sphagnum moss becomes a little bit hydrophobic. And if you've let it go dry, it's really, really hard to get moist. But this is not a problem. But would I make poles with tree fern fiber only based on my experience with this plant? The answer is no. I would not make a pole with tree fern fiber only. And the reason I wouldn't make a pole with tree fern fiber only is because the tree fern fiber is little particles. And even as I've been making, you know, talking about this plant, see, I've just got tree fern fiber bits everywhere. I'll lift up my table so you can see. Once I, you know, just tap it, there's just tree fern everywhere. It's so messy. And it goes in my leca as well. It goes in my leca at the top there. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So if you're growing your plants in leca clay balls, would I recommend that you make a tree fern fiber only pole? No, I wouldn't, because I would not be doing that again. What I recommend you do is mix your tree fern fiber with your sphagnum moss. And by doing that, your sphagnum moss acts as a binding agent in a way. And then the tree fern fiber is in there and it gets moist quicker. So the binding agentness of the sphagnum moss and the get it wet quickly-ness of the tree fern fiber working together, in my mind, make the perfect substrate for a pole. So this is doing great. It looks great. And I love that dark, you know, the contrast of the dark against the green of the plant. It's great. But would I make it again? No. On top of the fact that actually tree fern fiber is quite expensive. So when I buy tree fern fiber, I like to mix it with my sphagnum moss so it can go a long way. So yeah, you might want to think about doing that. Let us talk about this problem child. This is my Calathea White Fusion. Yep, this is a fairly recent addition to my collection. And the only reason I got this plant is because I've always wanted one. Like for years and years, I've always wanted one. Finally, I found one. The price was right because they used to be a little bit expensive back then and I wasn't willing to pay that kind of money for such a finicky plant. But the price was right. I got this plant and I transitioned it from soil to my mineral-based substrate. And I've done a video showing how I do that. Now, I have mentioned that for plants with sort of a finer roots, plants that do like to be a little bit more moist, I like to put them in a mineral-based substrate because that retains more moisture than the Leca clay balls. And I think this plant is doing okay. But what I really want to show you is this naked rooted planter and what the roots of this plant is doing. Look at that. How beautiful is that? I absolutely love it. I love it, love it, love it. One of the selling points of this pot is they say that it does air pruning and your roots actually have all these little bits. You've got a larger surface area. You can see that. They just look absolutely amazing. And look, this is a new leaf over there and it's not looking crispy. So far, so good. There is another new leaf coming over there, not looking crispy either. There's another one at the bottom there. So, you know, I want to say I'm a little bit hopeful for my Calathea White Fusion. I'm just ever so hopeful. I don't want to jinx it by saying this is a success because, nah. Until this plant just becomes huge and is looking amazing, anything can happen. So we don't want to be celebrating too early. But I think this is doing really well. And I think this planter was just the best for this plant. And it's easy to tell if that reservoir needs more liquid. And of course, I have my little water level indicator that I put in there, which helps me to know if I need to top this up or not. And if you would like to get yourself one of these naked rooted planters, check in the description below for the link to the pot, and there's a 20% discount code just for you. This is my Philodendron Birkin. Yep. How awesome does that plant look? Yeah, it is really, really good. I transitioned this plant from soil to leca. It was a big plant. Another video I did showing how I transitioned a very large plant from soil to leca successfully and get it growing. And this is its pot there. It's also in a wick setup there. And it's sitting there. And I think it really looks beautiful. The new leaves are coming through. There's just new leaves all the time. I am loving how this plant is growing. It looks really, really awesome. Now, someone asked me I don't know when they asked me, what do I do when my Philodendron Birkin starts to get taller like it's doing right now? You can see it's just getting taller. What do I do? I don't know. Yeah, this is what my plant looks like now. I have not planned to see what's going to happen in the future. I don't know. So maybe what I will do, depending on how tall it gets, is maybe I could air layer it, cut off the top and start again. I really don't know. I do like to deal with problems as they arise. So that's not a problem that's arisen for me. That is a problem for future Nora, and she can sort out her own problems. For now, I am just loving the look of this plant. I am loving, loving, loving those stripes. It looks delicious. I love the white leaves. This is a success story. So I transitioned that plant. I showed you that video. I showed you how to do it. And here we are today. This plant is alive and thriving. Let's go back to some Hoyas because you know I love me a Hoya. This is my Hoya erythrina. I decided to show this one to you. Another example of how Hoyas just love lekker. I don't know how many times I can say this. This one is living in lekker Kleibels. That's the pot there. And you can see those are the little roots coming through there. This plant is really, really happy. And it's just, look, there's just vines everywhere. See, it's just vining everywhere. It's starting to, to sun stress a little bit. You can see that little red there looking really, really good. And this is another plant that I don't know if you can see it. There's a little peduncle there. This plant is about to flower for me. That's the reason I wanted to show this to you. This is the first time that has happened. I'm not sure if they'll take and keep growing, but I'm really, really excited because I've had this plant for a few years now. And sometimes Hoyas do that. You'll need to have them for a few years before they decide to reward you with a flower. But I'm really happy with how this plant is going. It's got some gorgeous leaves going. And of course, it's so happy it's decided that it's going to flower for me now. So Hoyas in lekker, a match made in heaven. Let's look at a Monstera now. This is my new Monstera Thai constellation. Oh, look at that leaf. How beautiful is that? Look at that one. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then look at that one. This is the newest leaf that this plant has given me. It's looking fantastic. Can you imagine? This is how far we've come. That was, I guess, one of the first leaves. And then that's now that one. It's looking so good. And that's the thing I love about Monstera Thai cons. It's not just growing and stalking everywhere. It's still quite down low there. So this plant doesn't need any support yet. It is a loving life. I got it. When did I buy this plant? I bought this plant as a birthday present to myself last year. So I've had this plant since December. So about 6 or 7 months now, 6 months, whatever. And this is her in lekker Kleibels. Look at those roots. I mean, if there's one thing Monsteras know how to do is grow roots. And this root actually lives in the reservoir, right? It actually lives in that reservoir. It's a submerged setup. You can see the nutrient solution in my pot. And this root is very happy to live there. And yeah, it's quite packed in there. And this is another thing I hear people saying all the time. They're like, well, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, do I need to repot my plant? And the answer is no, the plant is quite happy. There is absolutely no need to repot it at all. Look at it. It's beautiful. I am just gonna put it back there and let it go and live in its spot and have it continue being happy. So Monsteras in lekker, yes, yes, yes. My Monstera Thai constellation, great success. This is my other tree fern fiber pole, and on this pole is my Epipremnum Shangri-La. Or the spinach plant, I think it's called. Look at that. How beautiful are those leaves? They're amazing. There's a new one coming off there, and this is where we started. And that's where we're going. Those leaves were quite small at the bottom, but you can see them actually growing a little bit bigger. I didn't think that was going to happen, but there we go. And this one again, tree fern fiber pole. And I don't know if you can see, but you can see the roots that are within that tree fern fiber, and that plant is absolutely loving. It's rooted really, really well in that. I can't pull that off. And again, another moss pole, tree fern fiber pole that is really, really easy to keep moist. All I do is put the water at the top and it just seeps seamlessly down to the bottom. Now, again, like the other plant that I showed you, would I make another tree fern fiber pole? No, because there's just tree fern in my lekker. I don't like that. And now there's tree fern on my table. There's just tree fern everywhere. And I really love how it looks. Look, I mean, it's really, really nice with that dark tree fern fiber, and you've got those green bits of spinach just sitting there looking divine, really. I mean, they look so good, you could eat them. But no, don't eat them, they're expensive. Maybe not so expensive these days. It was expensive-ish when I bought it. But yeah, that's my tree fern fiber pole. It's still going. It's looking really well. Very, very easy maintenance. It's so easy to keep it moist, like I keep saying. But then it's all the flecks of tree fern fiber that I don't like. So for that reason, no, I wouldn't make it. But yeah, that's my plant doing absolutely brilliantly. My Epipremnum Shangri-La. Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous mama. Look at this plant. Whoo! It is a beautiful with a capital B. Look at that gorgeous half moon. Look at the size of that leaf. Absolutely divine. There's another massive leaf on that side. This plant is living in lekker clay balls. Oh, there we go. That's the pot there. It's got a little wick. And yeah, it's beautiful. I've put it up on one of the Leafy brand moss poles. I love it. I love the fact that the pole is actually transparent and that allows the plant to just shine. I can't show you this whole plant. It's huge. It's huge. Look at this. Look at this leaf. It is beautiful. Now, of course, you will have noticed that I haven't said what this plant is called, right? I have not named this plant. And I will not. I will not be saying it. This is the name of the plant up there somewhere. You can read it. I'm not going to do it because there's some people on the internet who just get really, really weird about how people pronounce things, right? And I'm not of a Spanish descent. I know no Spanish, or maybe it's not even Spanish, maybe it's Portuguese. I don't know. So that's the name of the plant. Okay, you can call it what you want, but this is it. I'm not sure if I've actually shown you how I transitioned this plant from soil to leca, but this is a plant that I got from a nursery to you. I think I got this plant at the same time that I got my Caladium Pink Symphony. And when it got to me, actually, this plant was a little bit broken. That post was just awful. It was just terrible. But I put it directly from the soil and into the leca, and this is where we are today. Honestly, I am just loving the way this plant has just, understood the assignment. And you can see we're here already. I'm probably going to need to extend that pretty quickly. And look, I'm not giving this plant a moss pole because it really needs one per se. I'm giving it a moss pole just for the stability. This plant it was leaning over, it was just everywhere. And it's easy for the stem to break. It's quite a thick woody stem, but it's easy for it to just bend over and break. So I decided giving it a moss pole is the best thing to do. But I actually have two plants on here. This is one plant over here, and you can see, get out of the way, there. That's a new leaf coming over there. And there's another, move it back a bit. There's another new leaf coming over there. So, this plant has just completely understood the assignment. And I don't think I actually even did all that putting of an air stone and blah, blah, blah that I do sometimes when I'm going really gangbusters and how I want to transition a plant. I didn't do that with this plant. It was big already, and I literally just put it in leca, I think. Or maybe I just did the long method, to be honest with you. I can't remember now. It was so long ago. It was either I put it straight into leca or maybe I did the long method, but I definitely did not use an air stone and all the rest of these. But this plant is actually thriving. So yeah, that is my thriving in leca clay balls. Okay, this is my other Monstera type constellation. Look at this plant. It is huge. And that is a new leaf that is coming through over there. Look at it. It's living in that tiny, I don't know, I think that's a 18 centimeter pot. And you've got all these weird roots coming everywhere. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, man. This plant is just to die for. So I have two Monstera type constellations, right? I've got this one and then I've got this other one, right? And I only got this other one because someone said to me that this one's not very beautiful because it's not very variegated. And, I got a little bit hurt, but I had a little bit of FOMO too, so I bought this one. What can you do? But when I got this plant, it was so tiny, and it's just really morphed into this fantastic plant. It's just absolutely beautiful. I cannot tell you how beautiful this plant looks. I mean, obviously you can see how it looks on there, but seeing it in real life is just amazing. Well, that's it for today's video. I could be here all day showing you all the plants that I've transitioned from soil to leca and are actually still thriving in my home. I will do regular videos of this nature just to show you that actually the plants are still alive and well, or oops, they're not with us anymore. Watch this next video where I show you all the plants that I can't keep alive. I'll see you there.